To the nurse who said to me last week that I could probably walk, but whatever. For those of you who watched my video last week, this is kind of a continuation of the same story. So if you missed last week's video, don't worry, you can watch it after for a little bit more context, but this is a separate story within a story. Essentially what happened is, as I was getting discharged of the hospital last week, I overheard nurses making comments about my discharge. My nurse was going on break, which meant that another nurse was going to be responsible for helping me exit the physical hospital. So she felt the need to let that nurse know that I should be able to walk, but apparently I wasn't going to be able to, and so I would need help transferring from my room to the exit of the hospital. Typically this would be done by a porter or a healthcare aide or something like that. I'm assuming they were short-staffed, which is why the nurse was going to be doing it. But essentially what would then happen, I would then wait 45 minutes through the process of this happening because I was getting attitude from this nurse. The nurse would pass by my bed almost 3 or 4 times telling me to continue to wait because she was going to try and get someone else to help me move me from my bed out into the entrance where Luke was waiting for me. When the nurse finally decided to give me the time of day, she realized that what the nurse had actually, the other nurse, my original nurse, had told her was actually false. I had mentioned to her the fact that I had a seizure disorder, undiagnosed seizure disorder, that I had had multiple seizures that day and that my legs weren't working properly and I needed help. She saw me for the first time transfer from the bed into the transfer chair and instantly changed her tune. Instantly, she realized that I needed the help, that I needed to be transferred in a transfer chair and that I wouldn't just be able to walk out. But not only that, but because I was brought in via ambulance, I had no shoes. And that was the kicker. She's like, oh, you also have no shoes. I'm like, no, I was brought in via ambulance last night. And you could just see this shift in her brain happen literally in her eyes, and her attitude go from so malevolent, so I don't care who you are, whatever, you're just a pain in my butt, to I'm so sorry, I'm gonna help you right away. It makes me so frustrated. The waiting 45 minutes with Luke sitting by the ambulance bay is one thing, but the entire process and all of these points of stress that didn't need to happen because someone just assumed something when they didn't even know the whole story. Not only was she supposed to be the one caring for me, but clearly she hadn't read my chart because I literally had 3 seizures on the way into hospital. So had she read my chart, she would have known that. Okay, it probably wasn't noted that I had no shoes, but like had she been in my room more than 10 seconds during, you know, the 5 hours I was under her care, she might have noticed. And I understand they're busy and I understand all those things, but if you are going to make these assumptions and you are going to make these comments, and not only going to make those comments, but going to make those comments where the patient can physically hear you, oh my goodness, you are in the wrong profession. There are just certain things that you just don't do. And if you are a nurse, a doctor, if you are in the profession of caring for humans, you do not have the right to assume things. Yes, I am 28 years old. Yes, I look fairly healthy. Yes, I look normal. People look at me all the time. When I leave the car and they see my handicap sign and they see me go into a chair and they see me walk into my chair, they assume shit all the time. And I don't blame them for that, but assuming makes an ass out of you and me. That's literally what it means. Literally, you guys don't understand what people go through day in and day out. And so assuming that things are easier and or more complicated, you just don't know. You don't walk in these people's shoes. You haven't even walked a day in their shoes. How can you assume these things? And making comments, especially offhand comments like that nurse made that day, especially after the day that I had, was uncalled for. So uncalled for, especially coming from an emergency nurse that's supposed to have the empathy to be dealing with people who are having emergencies, for crying out loud. I understand they deal with a lot of BS, and I understand they're overworked, and I understand all of those things, but that does not justify that they treat patients the way they treated me that day. It's not okay. It's just not. And if you're going to treat people like that, you're not in the right profession. You're just not doing the work you should be doing, and you're not doing it the right way. And that might seem harsh. And yes, I'm also assuming that she may just have had a bad day and made an offhand comment, and I should give her the same grace that I'm asking her to give me. But at the same time, I'm the patient and she's supposed to be the professional, not the other way around. She's being paid to literally be doing and treating me a certain way, and she wasn't doing that. That is literally her job. And so for me, it takes it to that next level. And considering the experience that I had with the ER doctor, and he was absolutely amazing, and the treatment I got from the ER nurse was just literally night and day, it made the experience such a tug of like good and bad, and like, you know, good and evil at the same time. It made for such a complex experience and such a challenging experience that just should have never been. And so to the nurse who told me I should have just been able to walk out of that hospital without any help, I really hope that it was just a bad day, and that you have better days, and that you don't treat every patient like you did me, that you don't assume things like you did with me, and that you treat patients with more compassion than you did me. I hope this opened your guys' eyes a little bit to what things happen in the background and kind of what we deal with as patients and people with disabilities. We see a lot of things and deal with a lot of people that, you know, just kind of look at us funny and treat us in just a bit of a different way. And it's something we deal with on a daily basis. And yeah, we shrug a lot of it off and we deal with a lot of it and we just move forward. But it does affect us. And to anyone who says it doesn't, I promise you, over time, it compounds and it can become challenging. And, you know, even talking about it now, it helps to just have you guys understand that this is something that we do deal with on a fairly frequent basis. And it's something that I wish we didn't have to deal with quite as often as we do. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope this gives you a little bit more content and perspective on the day in the life of complex situation when it comes to disability, and how just a few words in a string of a sentence can really truly make a damaging impact on someone's life. I look forward to speaking to you guys next week, and don't forget to slow your roll. If you missed the emergency story that leads to this story, check it out over here.